Hello, this is Janice Seagraves. This is my special Halloween edition. Um, long time ago, we used to live in a haunted house. People would actually ask me, "Is your house really haunted?" Yes, it was. The old house we used to live in um, really did seem haunted. My husband and I first moved in there about 28 years ago, and I'd go to the bathroom during the day. This wasn't happening at night, and wash my hands and I'd hear a little girl sobbing. And we didn't have any neighbors. We're out in the middle of nowhere. There was a vineyard around us back then. It later became an orchard, but there's nobody there. And I mean, it was so long ago that reason would dictate that the child would have grown up in the years that we were there. We were there for 25 years. My daughter grew up in that house. When my daughter was a newborn, she started to cry. And I was sitting beside my husband watching TV, and I sighed, and I got up to go tend to her, and we heard just clear as a bell and a woman's voice saying, "Hush, baby." I ran into the bedroom as fast as I could. My husband ran outside, and I turned on the light, and my daughter was sleeping. There was nobody there. And my husband came in the house. He said there was nobody outside. He thought somebody was trying to get her through the window or something. And he went through the house. He said, "There's nobody here." So we don't know where that voice came from. It's just, we both heard it just clear as a bell. Um, when my daughter was a baby, she used to sleep with us, and I'd feel the foot of the bed dip like my husband was putting his boots on, like he'd do before he'd go to work because he worked at night. And I opened my eyes to, tell him, "Have a good night and I love you," but there was nobody there. Um, Over the years, my husband and I and my daughter, we'd see a little girl, and we just decided she must be a ghost. It was just kind of creepy. The first time I saw her, uh, my daughter was sleeping beside me. My husband had already went off to work, and I heard my daughter screamed in the middle of the night and just immediately woke me up. And I rolled over to check on her, and on the other side of her, I'd have pillows, so my daughter wouldn't roll out of bed, and this little girl was sitting there staring at me. She was in a nightgown, and then right before my eyes, she just faded away. Um, Later, when my daughter was 3 or so, she would be talking to somebody who wasn't there. And my husband and I just sort of jokingly referred to this person as her invisible friend. It was later that we realized that was the ghost girl she was talking to. Once or twice, I heard scary voices saying my name, and just chill just washed down my back. I've been woken up by the sound of my bedroom door opening up, and I wake up enough to look at the door, and it was closed. Um, we've seen orbs. I'm sure you've heard of orbs. And one time I was once again in the bathroom. I don't know why I kept being in there, but I turned and there was an orb just floating right in front of me, and it started to move. So I followed it, and it went into my daughter's bedroom and gently went down to the foot of the bed, and there it just disappeared. Um, I've taken pictures of the orbs. We had this little black cat that was in the window, and it was real cute, so I took some pictures, and when we got the film back, there was orbs around her. And that was the kitty that died. So I don't know if those are correlated or not, but those were taken at different times. My husband, one Thanksgiving, he was going to cut the turkey, so I brought up my camera, and he opened his mouth real wide to make a funny face so I could take a picture of him. And then all of a sudden he looked scared, and I'm like, I took the picture, and I'm like, "Why did you look scared?" He said, "I don't know." And then I got the film back, and it looked like something had went through his mouth. So it looked like kind of like a peace pipe or something. It was just a little strange. Um, while my husband worked nights and we finally got our daughter to sleep in her own bed, sometimes I'd lay there and watch something flitting underneath the sheet, back and forth, and I'm wondering what it was. And my husband would come back home in the morning, and I'd asked him to help me flip over the mattress, and I'd examine the edges for mouse holes was country house, so I'm thinking mice. And there was no hole in the mattress. There was no indication that there was a mouse there. You know, they poop all over the place, and there's no poop. There's nothing to indicate there was a mouse. Um, One morning, I was woken up by a child's sweet little voice singing "The Lilac Tree," and I thought it was my daughter. And I woke up, and I was going to. As I woke up, if the voice faded away, and I was going to get up and tell my daughter she sang that very nicely, but she was in the living room with her dad watching Saturday morning cartoons. And this is back when they still did that. And they didn't know what I was talking about when I mentioned it to them. And they said they didn't hear anything. And I said, well, maybe somebody was singing on the TV. And they said, no, nobody's saying anything on the cartoon. And so it was another one of those odd things. A more pleasant thing that happened was sometimes I'd smell brownies being baked in the oven. And I'd get up and follow my nose into the kitchen, but there wasn't even a smell of brownies in the kitchen. Nothing. And like I said, we didn't have any neighbors, so it wasn't the neighbors cooking brownies. But it was one of those times where I was very disappointed. Those brownies smelled good. There was another time where I had to be somewhere and I overslept. And I could hear feet shuffling around my bed, and this quavery little old lady voice was saying, "Come on, honey, it's time to get up." And I, of course, woke up and looked around. Nobody there. My daughter told me she had one of her friends over, and they spent the night in her room, and they heard the door open in the bathroom and whispering. And her friend got up, and her friend first asked, "Is your parents awake?" And my daughter said no. And then they looked into the bathroom, and of course, nobody was there. It was very quiet. We've heard whispering voices just about the whole time we were there. One of the first episodes was when we went shopping. We're just bringing groceries back to the house, and it sounded like there was people in our house talking. And we opened the door, unlocked the door as quick as we could, flung it open. The voices immediately just stopped. And of course, there was nobody there at all. And that was one of the more scarier incidences when we'd see stuff like that. Just before we moved out of that house and into this one, I had just laid down to go to sleep for the night, and I wasn't even asleep yet, and I felt somebody tuck in the tag on the back of my pajamas. My husband was working the graveyard shift, and my daughter was over at a friend's house, and I was completely alone. Or was I? Please like and subscribe, and I'll make another one next week. Thank you.